I think there's a feeling that it doesn't really work, and that whatever way you try and find out of it, it's like a strange computer game. You somehow come back to the room that you left a few years ago. That it doesn't really work. If you look back to that time, what Russia was like, 30 years ago, or what was called the Soviet Union then, was completely different from us. But its collapse was, in a way, the door that opened to the chaos that we now have everywhere. I don't think that we in the West fully understand, or even really comprehend, what millions of Russians went through at that point 30 years ago, because what happened to them was that their whole world just collapsed around them. What they experienced was the collapse of an empire. The British Empire collapsed, 80 years it took? They collapsed in just a few months, in 1991. It literally was like that. They were promised a new world, which was going to be a kind of democratic capitalism, which would be brought about very quickly. Within 8 years, that had collapsed into total corruption. Their whole institutions had fallen apart. People were living in forests, underground. No one could buy any food. Well, most people couldn't buy any food. And the system was being looted by a small number of very rich people. I don't think we understood what that did to millions of people. This is the strange collapse of belief in everything that gave you Vladimir Putin. This is the strange collapse of belief in everything that gave you Vladimir Putin. He was born out of the implosion of an empire and then the implosion of a democratic system. To learn from that. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a little bit dogmatic, but I just think we need to know what they went through in order to understand why Putin happened. He's not just some evil force that came out of another galaxy. He came out of that. And that is the parallel with today here. We have a very different society from Russia 30 years ago, but I would argue that what most defining characteristic of our present society in Britain is that everyone knows that somehow this system isn't working. But no one, whether they be in the opposition or in the government or amongst the journalists or amongst many millions of people, have any idea of what other system would work. So we just sort of accept it, lurching. You know, it comes like waves in a sort of fever. We lurch from one position to another, all trying to rework that system. But underneath, we know that they know that we know it isn't working, and it becomes this horrible feedback loop. that it doesn't really work. And that whatever way you try and find out of it, it's like a strange computer game. You somehow come back to the room that you left a few years ago. That you left a few years ago. That you left a few years ago. That you left a few years ago.